Hello everyone, welcome to the Pocket Sized Tales YouTube channel. I'm Juliet and I'll be narrating this episode's story. It's November and Thanksgiving is just around the corner. Since it is the season for giving thanks, we'd like to share some personal stories in hopes that they'll inspire you and give thanks for all the positive things in your life. If you like what we do here, please consider purchasing some merchandise from the Pocket Shop. Leave us a super thanks. And of course, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification to be alerted whenever a new episode is uploaded. Also share our content with your friends and family. With that said, let's get on with the story. Unconditional love. Growing up in a family of 12, I was fortunate enough to have siblings who loved one another, and also 2 loving parents. That was truly a blessing now, as I reflect in my almost 40s. There were so many nieces and nephews to babysit. The thought of being a mother was furthest from my mind. Most evenings and weekends were spent around family, and I never felt the solitude most single children went through. I met my husband in the early 2000s. A few years into the marriage, the typical questions started to arise. How come you guys don't have kids? Is there something wrong with you? How are your periods? Maybe you should start asking your mom or sisters for help. Many people who married after us started conceiving, which made me feel even worse as a woman. The weight of infertility was a heavy burden to carry. Everywhere I turned, someone was pregnant or announcing their pregnancy. After 10 years of trying to conceive with the help of Hmong medicine, shamanistic rituals, and fertility treatment, I started to mourn the fact that maybe we weren't meant to be parents. One evening, I had this horrible stomach ache that was not going away. I scheduled an appointment with my doctor to make sure it wasn't a kidney stone or ulcer. After a urine sample, my doctor came into the room asking if I knew I was pregnant. I started crying, questioning if she was lying to me. This was a miracle. We hugged because she knew my history with infertility. I went home and announced it to my husband. We were elated. Sadly, little did I know this was going to be a dark chapter in my life. This pregnancy ended at my 8-week checkup appointment. The baby stopped growing at 6.5 weeks. This was followed by another miscarriage about 6 months later. The third time I got pregnant was a year later. We were so scared but hopeful and happy. My husband had left to work one morning, and I had been experiencing what I thought was Braxton Hicks the night before. I called my OB and was advised to rush to the emergency OB unit at the hospital. The doctor said I was dilated to an 8 and had to be bedbound until I gave birth. I called my husband, bawling my eyes out, and he was shortly by my side. I could hear the baby's heartbeat on the monitor, which was reassuring. I was on all kinds of medications to keep the baby inside as long as possible, but unfortunately the contractions got too much and I gave birth to my baby at 24 weeks. There were so many doctors and nurses in my room, I lost count of how many people were in the room. I remember the sheer panic on their faces after the birth. There was no cry from the baby, and I could see them giving CPR while I was still in a daze. Everything seemed to be moving in slow motion. I could hear my heart beating out of my chest. Shortly after, everyone rushed out of the room with the baby. My husband whispered to me that the baby weighed 1 pound and 12 ounces. After the baby was stabilized, we were finally able to meet each other for the first time. I tried not to cry, but the baby was so beautiful, and I felt so sad about how I had once again failed as a woman. Several days passed, and my heart broke each time I saw the baby being pricked, prodded, and crying inside the incubator. The only thing I could do was talk to my little one through the tiny window and sing to him. Every day I begged God to punish me. Please take away the hurt and pain that the baby is in and allow me to trade places. There were so many machines and wires attached to him, it was unbearable to see him without my heart breaking. Each visit was emotional, and we made it a point to visit twice a day. Saturday came, and we had just finished our morning visit with the baby. My husband and I went to have lunch nearby. My cell phone rang, and I recognized the number from the hospital. The hospital staff asked that we rush back because the baby wasn't doing so well. Our hearts sank as we raced to see our baby. Upon arriving, we got the news that the baby needed to be transported to the children's hospital. He had stopped breathing, and they tried multiple attempts to keep the baby steady. I rode in the ambulance on what felt like forever. Seeing my little one's chest rising and falling made me feel so helpless as tears fell from my eyes. Upon arrival, I ran with the hospital staff as we rushed to the baby's new room. All efforts failed to bring my baby back to me. Was this a cruel joke the world was playing on me? Was this a bad nightmare that I was going to wake up from? The moment when you physically hurt and your knees feel like they are going to buckle is so real. They handed my little one's lifeless body to me to cradle one last time. I begged for mercy, prayed for a miracle, prayed to my ancestors, prayed to God, but nothing happened. I cradled my little one and kissed the little face I would never see again. Most importantly, as I buried my face into the tiny body, I apologized. I apologized for not being able to carry my little one to full term. I apologized for not being a good enough mom. My only hope was that the baby knew how much we loved him as his parents. As we left the hospital without my baby, I just knew that moving forward, a piece of me died that day as well. Grief is ongoing. Grieving does not have a timeline. No measure of time can heal the loss of a loved one, and don't allow anyone to tell you to get over it. My baby was here on this earth for exactly 27 days, but the unconditional love I experienced by loving him will last a lifetime. This year we celebrated his 9th heavenly birthday. My advice is to take one day at a time, and if that's hard, count the hours and then the minutes. Some days will be harder than others, and that's okay. Don't take anything for granted. Find a support system and share about your experience. You are not alone. The adversities we face in life will mold us to be who we were always meant to be.